Welcome to the Bhakti Talk podcast, where we discuss the spiritual path through the wisdom ways and practices of our beloved Guru, Swami Premodaya. We are your hosts, Swami Sky, and I am Ananda Dev. The Bhakti Talk podcast is presented by the International Centers of Divine Awakening. Subscribe on our website, i-coda.org, YouTube, or any of the major podcasting sites. Be sure to also give us a follow on all social media at Bhakti Talk Podcast. In today's episode number 4, we are talking about spiritual names. The beautiful name Swami Sky titled this episode with is Unwrapping the Gift of a Spiritual Name. Our beloved Guru Swami Premodaya says about spiritual names: when you receive a spiritual name from your Guru, it represents the deepest truth of who you are and the direction your life will go. And also, it's a new beginning, a new birth. So, Swami Sky, you received your name from our beloved Guru, Swami Premodaya. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure did. And I can tell you it is an absolute gift. And the unwrapping of that gift continues to unfold to this very day. I received my spiritual name in 2006, specifically January 30th, 2006, during my initiation. When the Sangha, or spiritual community around Swami Premodaya, was forming, happening, organically, as Swami Premodaya became a spiritual teacher, which we talked about in the previous episode. And then there were those of us around him who started to say, "Hey, this is more than spiritual teacher. You're my guru. This is more than just coming to a teacher and receiving satsang and having all these incredible benefits of meeting with a spiritual teacher. It was, you're my guru. Do you take disciples?" And at first, it was no. I mean, Swami Premodaya's story, which we previously shared, was all about how it never wanted to be a spiritual teacher. Certainly, okay, spiritual teacher, fine. That seems to be something that's happening, and that I can help people in a more in a spiritual way. And then it was never the guru, the thought of formal initiation between guru and disciple, which is really quite simply, it's the calling of a heart. It's the recognition of the disciple or the student at the time. It's a heart recognition that this person, there's something much more here. And so the request for discipleship, formal initiation, was happening. And as was mentioned previously, Swami Premodaya's response was kind of, well, why to God? He said, to God, why formal initiation? Why guru disciple relationship? And he's said before that he got a very clear response, which was because some people needed that. Some people need that. And I was one of the some people who need that, along with other Sangha members. And so formal initiation was offered. And in the very beginning, the first initiations, Swami Premodaya said, you have the opportunity to request a spiritual name. And what I now realize in preparing for speaking you to today, which again, I will acknowledge you, my beloved guru brother, Guru Bhai. I love you. It is such a joy to know you, to be with you, to travel on the same path as you, and to be a spiritual support in our community. It's so fun to have these conversations in this way, to have a place where you can talk about devotion, your spiritual path, and today to celebrate in our spiritual names and the gift of that. The gift of you in my life is tremendous. They get to share about the gift of the spiritual path and relate in our beloved guru is something I'm ecstatic about and I look forward to. So I really prepared for today. And it occurred to me, and it never occurred to me before yesterday, that I am the only person who requested a spiritual name and received it during initiation. So initiation with Swami Premodaya, the very first was you can request a spiritual name. So I did that. I said, absolutely, I would like to receive a spiritual name. And I listened to my initiation yesterday, which I've done frequently and many times over the years. And I have transcribed it word for word. And then yesterday I sat down and listened to it again and went word for word through the transcription to make sure it was absolutely accurate, because I really wanted to share that with you today. I really wanted to share the recording, but I have to tell you that in in that time, 2006, we recorded on this little CD recorder, and that it was a digital recorder that burned to CDs, and we were using just one microphone, and it was an omnidirectional microphone, so it literally picked up everything. And this the first initiations were in an office that had an exterior wall that butted against a bus stop. So there's buses roaring through the recording, which is its own sweetness in a way, because you have to listen so carefully to the recording to get word for word what is said. So you really, really have to listen and listen and listen and make sure you get every word and every nuance. So that in itself was like this meditative, rich, enlightening process, that I've actually done more than once, but I did it last night to make sure it's absolutely pinpoint clear, because I wanted to share with you today. I think you've heard my initiation. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. And I know that I've shared it with you and some people, but it's such a sacred event. It's not something that you know, put out and, sit around and, click on the radio and listen to. So I'm very excited to share with you receiving my name word for word in my initiation today. So I'd like to share that with you now.
Great.
Um, and then we'll continue. So
Okay.
I will read from my initiation. Here we go. All right. So Swami Premodaya is speaking to me now, and he says, "This has nothing to do with personalities. This has nothing to do with what happens or doesn't happen. This has nothing to do with what's said or not said, what's expressed well or poorly. This has nothing to do with anything that happens. It's not about what happens. It's not about what you feel or think or perceive. It's deeper, simpler, maybe even older." And I'll pause there for just a moment, because that maybe even older line is it's so funny. It's not a script. It's not a line. But when he said maybe even older, I just felt that on the cellular level. I felt that the impact of it, the wow of it, the like woo. And right now, even as I'm saying it out loud, I literally have goosebumps on my entire body, through my spine, arms, leg, all head to toe goosebumps, because that one simple phrase, maybe even older, is something that I can't possibly explain. But it somehow explains so much. How do you explain that receiving an Osho book sent me to a magazine where I saw this face and was so like this? And when I saw that face and I had to go to this all day workshop, and then when I laid eyes on Swami Premodaya, our beloved guru, for the very first time, I just heard in myself, I literally heard I'll never forget it, these exact words: "That's it. That's him. I'm done." I don't know what that means. I have no idea how that can be the case, but how accurate was that simple phrase? "That's it. That's him. I'm done." And I've received so much over and over and over and over again from Swami Premodaya. And that's true. That's it. That's him. I'm done. But how do you explain that recognition? I can't, but possibly even, let me say the exact words, maybe even older. Boy, does that have a ring of truth to it. How do you explain sense of recognition? Well, maybe it's even older than you can possibly, recognize or imagine. That points to it. I can't account for it, but I can tell you that the ring of truth, everything that's being said in this initiation has been powerfully true again and again. So I'll continue, but I'll just say again, maybe even older. He continues to say, unbelievably rare for someone to catch, excuse me, unbelievably rare for someone to come in such, why am I adding words? Unbelievably rare for someone to come in the way you came. Unbelievably rare to come with such immediate, complete trust, making everything possible. I didn't create your trust. Even my trustworthiness didn't create your trust. You brought it. Even when doubts are there, doesn't matter. There aren't many like you. There never has been many like you, and there will never be many like you. Try not to make that your cross, make that your joy. Very few hearts ever so willing, very few hearts ever so trusting. Remember, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter how it seems. It doesn't even matter how it feels. What matters is that heart is so for real, so completely full, and so completely empty. Very rare. God's gift to you, your gift to everyone, capable of holding everything like the open sky. That's why I give you the name Sky. Who is more like a sky than you, overflowing, yet completely empty, holding everything that needs to be held? Such trust can only be contained by the sky. Nothing else is big enough. You can use the name, not use the name, but always remember that you're as big as the sky. He goes on a little later to say, Guru is just a symbol for the all, for what is. The exact same as in you. See that even more so you can be the completely open sky.
Beautiful. Overflowing yet completely empty. It's a perfect description. It's a perfect description of you, what you bring, what you are to me, overflowing yet completely empty, capable of holding everything. Sky, wonderful, wonderful. Um, I just have to add this again, because I feel in the words you read. This is Bhakti talk. I feel the sweetness, sweet as honey. Bhakti. It's so sweet. Also, getting your spiritual name from your guru. It's the intimacy of the guru disciple connection in itself, but then also this gift. Once again, wonderful title: Unwrapping the Gift of a Spiritual Name.
Yeah, and for me, as he says, as I just read, he says you can use the name or not use the name.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've talked about that, how it's been the tradition of the guru disciple relationship to receive a spiritual name, and you go by that spiritual name, and that marks your path, that marks your new beginning, that marks a break from the past. And I received that name in 2006, and I used it, amongst my spiritual community, amongst my sangha, but people who are close to me. But I did not start using the name, all the time as this is my name, until many years later. And one of the concerns was, my job in the film industry is based on reputation. So your name is your reputation. There aren't resumes. It's all about referrals. It's all about, who your network is. And so that's all tied with my name. So part of the concern was that I would have a much harder time getting work. And it just never really occurred to me to make it my legal name. And it wasn't until years later that I really wanted a break from my past, because my past was associated, my legal name. Actually, what's funny is my legal name had changed through adoption, through it changed a few times already, and it never even occurred to me. And so it just, I didn't want the hassle of it. I didn't want to deal with it. I just didn't really put too much to it, and I really wanted to make sure that it wouldn't affect my work. And then it just became so clear when I found out how easy it was, at least as an American, to change your name legally. And I really wanted a break from the past, and I really wanted to mark and identify my spiritual path. So I wanted to live my spiritual name. And so I decided to change my name legally. And I could not believe, once I did that, how fast and easy it was. It was so fast, so easy, and nobody even batted, nobody cared. It wasn't, it's like the concern about other people turned out to be really silly. And I actually have a funny little story. The only person who I had kind of like a bit of a pushback from was never to me directly, but it was to my boss. And he's a very stereotypical older Italian, very Italian, New Jersey, New York Italian Hollywood producer, who was talking to my boss, and he's like, "What's this? What is this? What is it? I'm not calling him that." And so the story was told to me, because he didn't say this to me directly. And then my boss explained, "Well, let me tell you why he is changed his name. His legal name previously is associated with a traumatic past, and he wants to be disassociated with what is a reminder of his trauma." And I don't know that he said this part, but it's true, so I'll add it. It's, I wanted to be associated with my spiritual life. I wanted to be, every time I hear my name, I focus on my guru. Every time I hear my name, I can feel my beloved guru. I feel my spiritual path. I feel the direction my life is supposed to go, and what my focus is. And so when he found that out, the very, it was a matter of, my boss telling me this conversation, and then later that day I saw him in person. He goes, "Hey, Sky." Never once. They didn't even bat an eye. So it was amazing how supportive people were and are. And if you give people an opportunity to be loving and supportive, especially if they know the information of it, I was really moved by the level of support. And now every time I hear the word sky, I think of my guru. I feel my spiritual path, and I feel the direction I'm going. And the gift of the spiritual name is everything I just read you from this initiation, I'm still living to this day. So at the time in 2006, I was in such a level of suffering that I couldn't even come close to take in everything that's being said, because we're often, how we see ourselves and how we're identified is by what's conditioned into us. And what was conditioned into me was a very negative self view, to put it mildly. And so I just couldn't make this your joy. Don't make this, there aren't many like you, there'll never be many like you. Try not to make that your cross, make that your joy. I immediately made that my cross. Oh, the truth is, I already had it as a cross, and I was carrying that around as a burden constantly. But the gift of the guru is this initiation, just this gift of a spiritual name, has been completely unfolding and completely unraveling for the past 20 years. That's not quite 20 years, because we're in 2024, so 18 years. And it continues to give, it continues to give and give and give and give. And if I had to sum up the guru disciple relationship, I would say that that's the that's the primary experience I know, is that the guru function is constantly giving. And the disciple is the light shines on, and you with that light, you're able to see and know yourself. You're able to see and know your conditions, your patterns. You're able to then choose differently, live responsibly. And I'm so honored to have been given a name in my initiation. And like I said, I found out that, oh, I'm the only one over all these years who's been given the spiritual name in and during initiation. So I understand. I in preparation for today, I also listened to your initiation yesterday. I heard no mention of a spiritual name. I knew that you had got your spiritual name later, but I wasn't sure if it was brought up in your initiation or not, because Swami Premodaya had said, even when the formal tradition of guru disciple relationship happened, it wasn't. He's like, now I have to give spiritual names. That's even more. Don't I have enough to do? He jokes in one video. So one of the beauties of Swami Premodaya, one of the beautiful aspects of Swami Premodaya's guruship is it's always the guru disciple relationship is always a freedom relationship. It's never a freedom limiting relationship. It's always a freedom giving relationship. And the guru uses many devices. Many gurus have used many devices. Osho, for example, gave everybody got a spiritual name. Everybody. The tradition of Osho was, it's funny how there's a great video from Swami Premodaya commenting on Osho and how everybody says he's non-traditional, and Swamiji's like, "What are you talking about?" Many aspects of his um, guruship was very ancient traditional, including you immediately get a spiritual name, you immediately take that on, and that's it. You're from this point on, you shed your worldly clothes, and you now wear your spiritually identified attire, whether that's orange or red or robes or whatever it may be. You live this name, and this is your path. This is what you're doing. You're no longer living the past and the conventional programming wherever you're from. But Swami Premodaya has always given people the opportunity of spiritual name. And what I found out later is when you were initiated, you didn't even know that a spiritual name could be requested. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I heard someone asking when I had already become a disciple. I heard somebody ask for a spiritual name, and that was the first time well, probably it was not the first time, but because obviously I knew there were people who had civilian names and spiritual names, so it wasn't completely unknown to me. But then hearing someone ask for a spiritual name, then it dawned uh, to me too, like, okay, I actually want that too. By then, I had heard Swami Premodaya also talk about spiritual names, and because I also wanted to take it completely seriously. I want to make a clear break with the past. I'm a disciple, and I want to honor that. And for me, a way to honor my discipleship was also to receive the gift from my guru of a spiritual name, something to live up to. And of course, there was also some curiosity involved, like, "Ooh, what will it be? Who am I?" Uh, because that's also
Sure.
something that the guru has said again and again, and it is true. Like, we're on this spiritual path. It's also a path of self-discovery. No one actually knows who or he or she is, and learning to know yourself is such a significant and important part of being on a spiritual path. So for me, receiving a spiritual name was also a very important. And I also know, like, yeah, your not your name. I heard Pramadaya also talk about, well, even your spiritual name. It's significant, and it isn't. It's not about the words. It's not about names. But it's an important. For me, I still feel it as a very important um, step and a very important event to actually for real break with the past. I just recently um, also changed my name legally. I wanted to do that already 10 years ago.
So you received your name about 10 years ago, or when did you receive your
Uh,
name?
about 10, 11 years ago. Yeah. Then I remember receiving it, looking, because I knew in the US, apparently it's very easy to change your name. Here in Belgium, I live in Belgium. it was very difficult up until a year or 2 years ago. They made it a lot easier, especially first names. They made it easier to change them. Um, and I had similar ideas about changing it. It was like, yeah, also with my profession, okay, how will people react? Um, it was very, because I've been using this name now mainly in spiritual circles, but also learning to know new people, especially when I visit people abroad, when I'm not in my own country. I tend to use Ananda. What's your name? Ananda. Here in Belgium, I kept on using my civilian name, but the main reason to change it was actually, and it definitely works like that, just hearing someone use my spiritual name, it's so enjoyable. It immediately it's like they say my guru's name. It's like they say, like, hey, disciple, Ananda Dev, disciple of Swami Premodaya. So that is the 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 biggest joy and the biggest pleasure for me in having now changed my name. And also I use it more, and therefore I'm reminded more. I take it a lot more seriously. It just helps f- to strengthen my discipleship, having changed my name legally. And I know the guru has said again and again, it's not necessary. You can also just use it, and then whatever you sign on any paper you have to sign, doesn't matter what name that is. But for me, it was very good and important to change it, and then to also use my spiritual name. Some people were very odd about it, and it tells a lot about uh, other people, how they react. Some are like, oh yeah, sure, fine, like you said, great, easy. And some are like, do I now really have to call you like that? It's like, well, yeah, it's my name. I actually changed it. This is now my name. So, but it's a good barometer for conventionality actually in people.
Well, it's also a little different for you because you have Ananda Dev, and
Mm,
Sky is still an English name,
mm,
whereas yours is not a Flemish. I
yeah.
mean, I'm forgive my ignorance, but understand that as an American, I am not well educated. Um, so, are names in Belgium considered Flemish, or what's the language your name is actually in?
It's in Dutch, and
In
Dutch.
Dutch, okay.
Dutch.
So
Yeah.
Ananda Dev is definitely not a Dutch
No,
name, whereas
no, no, no.
Sky is still an English name.
Yeah,
It's just different, and so I
yeah.
your our experiences would definitely be different. So please tell us when you received your name and what it means.
Receiving the name, it came a bit out of the blue, because I remember, and for some people, it's quite quickly that they get their name when they ask for it. It didn't take a very long time for me, but the
Oh,
guru
that's
just,
that's a good point. I keep your thought, but
yeah.
we want to mention that upon requesting a spiritual name from Swami Premodaya, he says, you request a name and then I allow it to come to me, and it takes
Mhm,
whatever time
mhm,
it takes. Well, he's also said that then God gives it to me. So let's say, God will allow it to come to me like a creative sitting in a corner pondering the next stanza of a poem. It's not like
mhm,
that. He
mhm.
literally, it's given to him, and then he immediately or I don't want to say what he does because I don't know,
Yeah.
but that he gives it to you. I don't know if it's immediate or not. I'm adding that. So I just want to say with the tradition of Swami Premodaya, and that's not the tradition with everybody. It's the
Mhm,
traditions are very different, even though many traditions, Catholicism has confirmation names, Buddhists, all these different traditions. Osho was, you immediately get a name. but Swami Premodaya's tradition, and even the fact that it went from you can request a name to like I don't to not even turn that into some sort of everything from the Guru's a device. So to then to not present it like when somebody requests discipleship, it's not even part of discipleship anymore. People kind of find out from other people and they request it. You'll notice that everything is always from our side,
Mm.
and the guru is a response function. Swami Premadaya is response. So you request the name, and then he is given the name, and then that's given to you. I just wanted to add that part. Please
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. And so even though I asked for it and I could expect at one moment to receive it, it came a bit out of the blue at the end of a meeting. Gurudev said, like, by the way, I have your name. Do you want it? And of course I said, yes, absolutely. And then he told me Ananda Dev. It's two names because I requested a full name. It's actually a first name and a last name. Dev meaning God, and Ananda meaning bliss. So it can be the bliss of God or the God of bliss. Um, Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just enjoying it. I mean, to me, think about it. Like, what a better place to hang out than the Bhakti Talk podcast. I mean, it sounds like we this should have been created a long time ago, but it came very naturally, and we
Yeah.
kept thinking Bhakti Talk. I mean, what better place for? I mean, you're basically describing how right on time this Bhakti Talk podcast is
Yeah.
for divine bliss to be
Yeah.
related
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And I remember receiving it and basically immediately feeling the bliss of it. And then the weeks afterwards, I was basking in the name. Um, and I remember also reporting it how blissful, deeply peaceful, enjoyable it it still is. It was also very surprising to have that name. I never considered myself as being oh, joyful or not joyful, but there is always even at my worst moments, I'd say, there's always inside a lot of joy still present and happening. So over time, also learning to know myself more and the unfolding of this name, I do feel I never questioned it, but I sense the rightness more and more of it. I also feel it bodily, bliss, deep peace. It's not easy, even it's not difficult, even at my most depressed feeling states, to have a connection to um, deep, intense joy. I also had it as a kid, even in traumatic events or circumstances. It wasn't difficult to go inside. It's all everything I'm saying now. This is all in hindsight. This is not something I realized or I knew, but this is one of the realizations or the unfoldings of receiving the name Ananda Dev. And it was interesting when that's just a couple of months ago when I changed my name legally. Uh, uh, I was working in a theater, and I told one of my colleagues, and she was very intrigued. And then she looked it up. And the next day she came like, I looked up your name. I looked up your name, and it's so accurate. It's so accurate. Her translation she found was bringer of joy. And she said, like, yeah, you have this ability, like when you come into a room, you bring in the sun. And I was very moved by getting that confirmation. She and also her openness to, okay, so now you're this and you're this name. So she was one of the people I saw, like, wow, she's very open uh, to a spiritual name, to spirituality, to something beyond the regular, beyond the conventional, beyond the quote unquote normal. Um,
She's also seeing what the guru is seen in you, even if it's taken us years to see it ourselves. She's also saying, "Hey, I see the accuracy of this name," and that is the gift of the guru itself, is to have the eyes to see and to give you the name that you become. And part of this is so enjoyable for me is because even up until recently, so you're saying you got this name about 11 years ago, even up until recently, you still, I don't think you'd mind me saying, you still saw yourself as more of a knowledge path person,
hmm,
much more in your head, much more intellectual. And I couldn't help but laugh because you're somebody who's been studying kirtan and the harmonium, and you're this artist, and this, you have such a passion for animals, and you're such a lover that, it shows you how funny we are. Our ideas about ourselves are so miss the mark because they come from such a conditioned program. This is what you're taught you are, and we have a very hard time seeing what we actually are. Just like I did not see myself as, my initiation actually starts with, I'll read the first line, because it's always a line that it took me years and years to realize. He says, "What a joy it is to have you, much more than you realize." I
hmm.
never, I, I always thought I was bringing, suffering everywhere I went. I thought, like the Buddha, like, lotus petals grow, or lotus flowers grow wherever the Buddha's feet have touched. I thought that it was, I was leaving, you know, steamy piles everywhere. So that was
You,
my self view.
you shared with me you were the guy walking around with a mohawk, being angry at everything and
Everything and
everyone.
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, yeah, I had a scowl. So that's what I thought I was sharing. I thought, and here the guru saying you're a joy, and you're as big as the open sky. Now, meeting the guru had already opened so much, but I still held tight to this self view. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
sharing with you. That's exactly how we all are. We all,
Yes.
we all show up with a clenched fist on a programmed self
Yeah,
view, and it's the guru's
yeah.
love and light that gets us to soften enough to start doing some self realization,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you kind of start to open up, and with the help of something like a gift of a spiritual name, it kind of directs you down your path.
Yeah.
And then you get to where you're saying, which is, now people are saying you're a joy bringer, and
Yeah, yeah,
wow,
yeah,
you
yeah.
really are bliss, you do bring bliss wherever you go.
And it seems like it was for you a bit the opposite feeling. For me also, I just shared like, oh yeah, I see that I had that in myself, but that's now in retrospect, in hindsight, that's not
Right.
something I was aware of. I know that I would give off depressed vibes, smoking cigarettes, reading books, like long hair in front of my face, just like that's not well, that's a bit the opposite of the unfolding of the name Ananda Dev, of bliss, God. Um, yeah, what a what a blessing to actually take on the name, accept the name, and then to live. I wanted to say to live the name, but it's an unfolding.
Hmm.
It is just an unfolding. It's trying to or learning to know yourself. It's just accepting whatever is unfolding. It's just being also just sitting down, looking, being honest. Yeah, it's not resisting who you are. That's also something our guru teaches. Relax, relax, just be be who you are. It's something, um yeah, and it's still going on. It's still happening, and there's no end point. There's no end point to learning to know yourself and learning to know yourself, like lowercase s, capital S, uppercase S. Learning to know yourself is learning to know God, is learning to know other people. It's all because the guru is just unveiling and shining a huge light and burning all the, like we said in one of our previous podcasts, burning all the nonsense away.
Yeah, as you're talking, it makes me. I just had this, this like very conventional way of saying it. It's like the guru is saying you're the CEO. You're the CEO of this company, and you've got a mop and a bucket, and you're like, but I'm the janitor, and he's
Yeah.
like, it's like you're insisting on being the janitor. And he's like, no, 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 you actually are running things. You're in charge. You're the CEO of this whole thing. And you just keep insisting on, and then it's like you'll do a little bit, but you keep your mop, and then you do a little bit, and finally you're like, wait, oh, this is my office. I don't know. Somebody else's job is to clean it. I don't know. It's just a very funny way to put it. It's kind
it's
of
it,
like
it's a good spiritual name, CEO. CEO.
one more for the three letters. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it still floors me to this day to have received a spiritual name. This initiation I've heard many many times. It was such a joy to go into it again. It's such a privilege to be able to share it with you and on this podcast. And I'll also just add, there's another sweetness to it that I haven't really said or shared, which is the initiation ceremony itself has changed a bit over the years, and for different people it's been a little different, and mine included honoring Swami Premodaya's spiritual teachers, his gurus, because he has two gurus, and the spirit the significant spiritual influences. He honors all teachers, but in the ceremony, and I just want to read the very beginning because it has such a sweetness to it for anybody, but then I'll share the richness of it for me. And I started the second part of the initiation. I keep it on my wall. Is I bow to Osho, master of masters, master for all time, beloved guru of my guru, now and forever. You are the sky smiling. So with Sky, I get so much, but I also get Swami Premadaya's sweetness and his devotion for his beloved guru. And he has shared that I don't know the time, the point, but at some point for him, he is so lost in the guru. He so sees Osho everywhere he looks. He can't not see Osho. He's even said, when I look at the sky, I don't see blue. I don't see clouds. I see Osho's face smiling. So for me, it's kind of like the richness of, like, when I hear sky, besides the personal direct meaning for me, I also hear Swami Premadaya's devotion for his beloved master, who we also honor and love as our beloved
Mm,
guru's guru, Osho. So Jai Jai Osho.
Jai
Um,
Jai.
mm. So it's just such an absolute sweetness in that. Um, did you want to say anything else about your name, Ananda Dev? Because I tend to call you Ananda Dev. I never call you Ananda because I enjoy saying your full Ananda Dev,
Mm,
knowing that the whole thing came from your guru, and just how sweet it is. I've had to think long and hard at times that of whatever your legal name was previously, and so it's so funny. You're so Ananda Dev that it doesn't even matter whatever name came before, and it's all just a name.
yeah,
So it's your you, whatever, regardless of whatever your name
yeah,
is. But part of the gift of the guru are these devices that end up supporting the path, including a spiritual name.
yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to add with your name actually, because it's also a word, sky. Whenever I hear someone say in whatever context, sky, I'm like, sky, sky, my brother, sky, my guru, bye. So that's also wonderful in your name, that it's used in multiple ways through the day.
Mhm.
Mm.
So speaking of spiritual names, I mean, I didn't even let you answer your question. I wanted to see
um,
if you had anything more to say because I do want to also talk about our guru's spiritual names.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I think we can go to our guru's name. It's
Okay.
like not okay, or I will briefly answer. Ananda, Dev. I love it when they're used together. Um, One of the things people recently now. Uh, so do I have to call you then like the two names, or can I only go? It's like whatever, call me Ananda, call me Dev, call me Ananda Dev, but definitely not the previous name anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. Like it's
Mhm.
gone. Now I'm Ananda Dev, and um, I'm Ananda Dev, and nothing more to to uh, say about that. Actually, um, I still find it funny how some people have issues with it, some people don't, some people want to talk about it, some people don't want to talk about it at all. It's all fine. It's like you said, it's just a name, but it's not the name my guru gave me. So
It's also funny that anybody would think it's their business.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'll call you whatever you want.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
would I how does that have anything to do with me? How does that how is it that would weigh in on your life at all? Like,
yeah,
especially if you didn't ask for it. The only time if you ask me for an opinion or advice, or you're relating to me as a friend or some sort
yeah,
of guide or counsel, that's different. But the fact that people have some idea, it's just a name, and
mm,
it's got nothing to do with you.
yeah,
What is there to discuss?
yeah, nothing, nothing. Yeah.
But one of the absolute pleasures of everything we're talking about, and the joy of a spiritual name and the richness of it, is the modern day monk aspect of it.
Mm,
And you know, it like we talked about the tradition of moving into an ashram, into a monastery, and you you take on robes, you take on the name, and it's one of the tremendous opportunities of modern day spirituality, is that, you know, Zoom becomes your temple. Your sangha family doesn't have to live next door. There's no depending on your tradition, there's not necessarily a requirement for clothing. You don't have to take on a name. You do take on a name. But in the tradition of Osho, he gave all sannyasins, anybody who took initiation, a name. And our beloved guru took a sannyas August 5th of 1983.
mm,
And Osho gave the name to male disciples, the name Swami, and then a name. So beloved Guruji was given the name Swami Premodaya, August 5th, 1983. And I keep looking down to my left because one of the years to celebrate his initiation, he had these beautiful photocopies of his initiation letter, which was mailed out. He's kept all these years in pristine condition, and he had a wonderful copy made, and he gifted that to all the disciples involved. Locally, I don't know if it was mailed out to everybody or not, but I certainly know he gifted us this beautiful copy of his initiation. So I took it and I had it framed, and you can see Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, now known as Osho. And I don't know if you can see that, but it says Swami Premodaya, August 5th, 1983, Osho's signature. And on the back, it had the meaning of his name. And so I took the frame and I cut the back out so that you could see it. And you could always be able to, I cut that out with a little Dremel. And it says Premodaya, the rise of love. So that is our
mm,
beloved guru's name. And Swami Premodaya means the rise of love.
Mm.
And wow, could you have a better name for his path as he shared it with us, and his mission as he continues to constantly share with us? And I can't think of a more precise name for Swami Premodaya
Yeah,
and his guruship than the
yeah,
rise of love.
yeah. And that name is also his gift and Osho's gift to us.
Mhm,
It's the rise of love is his gift to his disciples of our beloved Guru. Um, yeah, Jai Pramadaya, Jai
mhm.
Osho.
Jai Jai
It's
Premodaya, Jai Osho.
uh, yeah,
And then I also use the name so my name is Swami Sky,
yes,
and I took sannyas with actually we took sannyas
yeah,
together in was that 2019, 2018,
yeah. 19.
2018. I have an incredible memory when it comes to my beloved guru and his guruship and his teachings. I do not have that same application to my own life.
19.
Okay, so and
Yes,
you know what?
five
Why am I
years ago.
asking? It's also on my wall.
January 3rd, 2019. Am
You're
I?
absolutely correct. For me, that's so fun because I received initiation with Swami Premodaya January 30th,
Oh,
2006, and then
yeah.
January 3rd, 2019, a sannyas with
Mhm.
Osho. And to me, I consider those the same. Just because 30 and 03, it's the
Yeah.
same. There's no difference. It's linguine and spaghetti.
Mhm.
It's pasta. That's
Yeah.
actually a wonderful story. I'm taking that from Thea's life, because Thea was when she was traveling in India with a friend. They were at a restaurant and ordered noodles, and the dish came, and as I remember it, her friend said, "Excuse me, I actually ordered the linguine," and he went, "It's same." Linguine. What's it? Say? I mean, don't say that to the Italian producer guy. Don't tell him that. But in India, yeah, spaghetti linguine. Acha.
Mm,
Um, so I received the name Swami Prem Akash, and that is exactly the same as sky.
mm,
Akash is more like it more it has it's a better word for the universal, the endless, but it truly means sky. It's the universe. And so having
yeah.
already received the name sky, I I my beloved guru, that's all that mattered to me. I just
Mm,
sky, that's it. And, and Swami Premakwaya, you could say, is universal love, or there's ways to interpret that, but sky captures it, as was captured in my initiation. And then a number of years later, within the last year or so, when Swami Premodaya had publicly announced that Sky has become, actually before that, he said, "Why don't you start using Swami Sky? Why would you not?" And for me, when I hear Swami Sky, I hear Osho Pramadaya, Osho Pramadaya. Osho Pramadaya. So that's what I hear when I hear Swami Sky.
mm,
It's such literally in my heart. I just feel like
nice.
on a burner when you turn it up because you got to boil the water. That's what happens for me when I hear Swami Sky. I hear woo. It's this fire of devotion for my guru, my guru's guru, also my guru. It's just like this richness, this fire, this bright. It just starts to Swami Sky. Woo. Osho Pramadaya. So I did. I started using Swami Sky. And then not long after that, because of all the transformation and all the now facilitating events at ICOTA, actually, I don't want to say because that almost makes it sound like it's linear. It
Mm,
makes it almost sound like you did this amount of karate, so you got a black belt. It's not like that. It's nothing like that at all. But Swami Pramadaya has very much explained this isn't something that I. Um, I'll say it positively because he's like, it's not something that happened. It's how do I accurately say that? It is something that happened. He basically recognized it. It's the guru recognized that Swami Sky, myself, had become the lineage holder
Mm,
at Ikota. So what he explained very clearly is that guru, the guru function, the guru is Swami Premodaya, and that the guru had become three. Not
mm,
that legacy holder and lineage holder are guru, but they are part of guru. He
mhm,
explained it very clearly. Like if you think about it as wing, legacy holder is one wing of a bird, lineage holder is another wing of the bird. And then Swami Premodaya is guru. Swami Premodaya will remain guru, but you get guru also through legacy holder Aiden Sleda. Aiden is the legacy holder at Ikota, and that Swami Sky is the lineage holder at Ikota. So it's really beautiful that guru had become three. He also used the example of, think of it as a if it was a stool, it'd be a three-legged stool and two legs of the stool, one legacy holder, lineage holder, and then the other is guru itself. So that was one of the beauties. So that all happened and unfolded, and all was recognized and communicated publicly. And it was such it's also part of the unfolding. It's also part of the unfolding of so Swami Sky. So that's why I use the name Swami Sky. And for me, it has such a richness to it. Again, I already said it, but I'll say it again because it's so fun. I literally hear Osho Premodaya.
nice, 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 nice. Yeah. Because Swami means like traditionally.
Tradition. So this is the beauty of Osho. I mean, Osho's so incredible. I mean, he was so far ahead of his time that he's still ahead of his time. I don't know if humanity will catch up to how advanced Osho is. Um, Osho is coming from the Indian tradition. And in the Hindu tradition, when you say Swami, that's associated with a male spiritual teacher, or a master of self. And because of the class systems, because of the different ways that Swami is identified, there's a lot of problems associated with it. And so he just, as a device, he called all of his people Swami. But look what that does. There's no more caste system. There's no more untouchables. There's no more. It immediately makes everybody equal. And Osho very, very clearly said again and again and again, I surround myself with all women, and all women will run everything. And he just had a way of taking any system. It didn't matter what it was, whatever the national system was, whatever the religious system was, everything. He just flipped it all on its head. And it literally created an environment of immediate deconditioning. And talk about breaking from the past. He literally crumbled all associations, all dogmas, everything. So he just immediately named everybody.
Mm.
If you're Swami.
Is the literal translation of Swami not one who mastered him or himself? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, I don't. I'm talking the English version. So any version that I translate is not fair, given that I am not a scholar of language or the scholar of traditions. What I am a scholar of is Swami Premodaya and his teachings, and that's why I'm the lineage holder at Ikota. So yes, it means a master of self. And again, that's why for me it's such a joy that I only hear Osho. One of the great gifts for me is that I didn't come from a tradition that I would probably have a problem if I was called Bishop Sky or Cardinal Sky. That I come from a Catholic background, that would probably really scramble my brain a bit. But I have no affiliation and no historical experience with Swami. So I'll share with you. My first time I ever even heard or knew the word Swami was when I very first met Swami Premodaya. I got heard
Mm,
Swami Premodaya. And one of the beautiful things that Swami Premodaya has done over these years, and he did for me for me, when I first met him, I had no spiritual background. I had no spiritual understanding. I had only been brought up in a system, and that system, it didn't really, there was no real, I didn't get much from it. Despite having a very beautiful experience with Jesus Christ, and I have such a fondness for Christ-based relation and worship, because of that, and because of visiting, his home.
Mm,
But I had no affiliation with. There was no real dogma or religious affiliation, and I hadn't even heard the word Swami until I met Swami Premodaya. So to educate me on the spiritual path, he sent me to other teachers. So the first time I had ever seen a Swami that wears all orange and all of that was when I was Swami Premodaya. Now I'm going to get really confused if I start saying Swami. Gurudev, Swami Premodaya, sent me to see
mm,
Amachi, the hugging saint. So I saw her for the first time in Los Angeles, and I saw these beautiful men and women in all orange that seemed to be devotionally serving their master. So I actually thought wearing all orange and being called a Swami meant you were in service of a guru. I never knew that it was supposed to be, it's tied to the idea or the word master of self. Never occurred to me. And I'm so grateful for that, because I didn't have any ideas or any nonsense around it. But I really thought with this, I mean, I'm watching these devotional kirtan sing. I'm watching these attendants tend to their beloved Amma. I went back and I ended up volunteering and spending time with and being with. And I thought that that's what a Swami was. I thought a Swami was a servant of the truth, not so my ego wasn't twisting any of that. I mean, thank God, I had plenty of other ego issues that need to be addressed, but never with some idea of master of self. I really thought orange, I thought it meant renunciate in service
mm.
of the master. And then, years later, to find out, it's related, how Swami is related to Osho. That was also my other understanding.
Mm.
Again, I never had the traditional dogmatic or societal understanding of Swami, so I could understand how it was such a disruptor for so many people in India. I could understand how they're like, wait a minute, you can't just call people Swami. But for me,
Yeah,
the association was always a humble servant. I never associated it with what you're saying, which is the more accurate terminology for the word.
yeah, now I get it. It would be like going to any Christian-based country or culture and start to call everyone like reverend, you're reverend this, you're reverend that, like our
Mhm. Or
uh
but and what's actually even closer though, because it gives a better flavor, is if you would call them like bishop or
bishop. Oh
it's
yeah, yeah,
way
further.
further up.
Oh, okay.
It's way. I mean, how Swami is viewed is Reverend is kind of like yogi, like,
Okay.
yeah, yogi, oh yogi,
Okay, okay,
yogi,
okay, okay.
because lots of people are yogis,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
There's a lot more
Yeah.
practitioners that are yogis, but Swami is reserved for the highest, and so it literally would be like, you're now Cardinal so and so, Cardinal Ananda Dev. Do you imagine going to the Vatican and everybody who enters the grounds is, you're a cardinal and 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 you're a cardinal. And by the way, all these white Europeans, I'm going to give them Indian name and an Indian name and an Indian name. And
Yeah.
can you imagine how much that was an incredible device for the entire anybody who entered this practice? Also, imagine the pressures of then what it immediately does is it gives you a hot knife
Mm.
right into seeing conventionality. It's like you're going to see the programming of the nation, of the area, by immediately slicing through all of it, and you can you can cut through all of it immediately, and it's like that whole thing unravels, because we're talking about a belief system, and
Yeah.
belief systems, as Swami Premodaya has pointed out, beliefs aren't the truth. They're
Yeah.
just beliefs. Beliefs, ideas, concepts, all of that is foisted upon us, often based on where you live and who you were born to. So how can that be the truth?
Yeah. Yeah, and we touched briefly upon it. our guru gives Buddhist names, Hindu names, or Indian names, African names, whatever name comes, that one is given. And the great thing indeed about, because you mentioned it already, like, my name is now an Indian name, and that is actually the main thing. It's not, if I would have changed my name to something that even sounded English, or another Dutch sounding or French sounding name, people would be like, "Ah, interesting." They wouldn't be phased at all. But since also in these times, like identity politics and all the politics that have been exploding around, also gender, because Ananda, some people are like, Amanda. Uh, th- so the confusion of people has a lot to do with very specific conditionings, like, okay, but you are from this culture, so why do you have a name from another culture? And it's beautiful how, in giving a name to disciples, one of the effects is also on the world around the disciple,
Mhm.
that poking holes into whatever, or pushing buttons there too. So yeah, it has a bigger ripple effect.
It's also just a wonderful way to quite simply be a living demonstration of how you are not your name.
Yes. Yeah.
Even with a spiritual name, you're not a spirit, you're not a name. You're so much more than that. To
Yeah.
any idea that I am my name is
Yeah. it
nonsense.
it's definitely, and it's also very interesting how this conditioning, how deep it goes, because
Mhm.
my youngest son, who is also a disciple, and he has a spiritual name. And when I told him that I was changing my name legally, he didn't immediately have a reaction to it. But then when it had been done, he was like, "Well, I talked about it with my friends, and well, they think it's weird, and they would never do it. And actually, I would also never do it, because your name, you got it from your parents." And I'm like, all, all of a sudden, like, that's also having a teenager, like, when your parents tell you what to do, there's like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" But then when it's about a name, like, "No, but I got this name from you." It's just conditioning. It's very deep societal conditioning. uh,
The fascinating part about your son is
mm, yeah.
he requested a spiritual name himself when he was
Yes.
about 7, and I can tell you at that time, I was never able to truly take in how deeply meaningful it was and is, and when he requested his spiritual name, he requested it be Sky.
Yes. Yes, it's true.
And it's so sweet. I mean, a 7-year-old is literally asking unprompted, I would like a spiritual name too, and I would like it to be Sky.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
What
but
an amazing human being he is. I'm enjoying because
yeah,
you as dad have to deal with the rebellious teenager,
sure.
but as an observer, I love all aspects of this
Yes.
human being because he's been so fascinating to bear witness to see somebody so young and so intelligent and so spiritually in tune, and then to also see the rebellious teenager and the dyeing of the hair and the shut up dad. I mean, I don't know that he says shut up
Yeah,
dad,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's those.
yeah,
I'm not saying he's saying that, but it's kind of like "Ugh,"
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah.
rebellious nature, that rebellious
Yes.
streak. To be
Yeah.
fair, I've never heard him say shut up dad. I just
No,
mean
no, no, no,
the
no.
energy of that.
I know. I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah. I actually have a fun fact I had forgotten completely about my name. I don't know if
Mm,
if you recall it,
let's
but
see.
when Gurudev gave me the name, he said, like, it's a name I really love, Ananda. It's a word I really love, and Ananda
Hmm.
Dev. There's a very famous Indian actor called Dev Anand,
Mm.
and he lived until then, maybe the early 2000s, I think, or later. He did a lot of movies. Just that was a fun fact, because my my day job, or evening job, is acting. I'm in performing. So um, that was a fun extra the guru threw in Dev Anand, very
Yeah,
very good
one of the
actor.
things about our beloved guru is his love and passion for cinema,
Hmm.
art, music, and I've always appreciated his sharing, because he really has an incredible knowledge of music and art and film, and he's always just shared that. That's been such a sweet part of having a guru who's so
Hmm.
in love with the arts. So I'm not surprised that he has that as an aspect.
Hmm.
Oh, Guru Bhai. I mean, what a pleasure it is to talk with you. It seems like we can come to an end of another wonderful conversation. And again, I mean, but before we do, it's also just hitting me. The rise of love, Swami Premodaya. That's Bhakti.
Bhakti,
That is Bhakti. No wonder
Bhakti,
why the
Bhakti.
Bhai to have any idea to have any idea that this is coming from us is it would be very silly. I mean, it's all comes from Bhakti, and we always say, what we often say, everything comes from the Guru, and I can emphatically
Mm,
say that I've done the work to actually trace it. I've actually looked. It does all come from the guru. And part of that means that everything that comes from the guru comes from our guru's guru. So it
mm.
all comes from Osho, but it all comes from Prabhupada. And there's no but. They're not they're not separate statements. It all comes from our beloved Guru Swami Premodaya, the rise of love. I mean, that's
Yeah,
bhakti itself. Of course, Guru Bhakti Yoga is the path with Swami
yeah,
Premodaya. And of course, his devotion, the rise of love for our beloved Guru's Guru, Osho, it all comes from that as well. It's so fun to talk to you. Um,
absolutely. And what a perfect name for a perfect guru. Like love rising, light, more and more light burning, making everything brighter and brighter and brighter. Bhakti it
yeah.
is. Yeah.
So we've come to the end of another wonderful podcast. Thank you, beloved brother. I would just want to
Thank you.
say that the Bhakti Talk podcast is presented by the International Centers of Divine Awakening, and you can visit our website at i-coda.org. I'll put that on the screen. And new episodes come out every other Monday, so be sure to subscribe to be notified.
And we also have a full calendar of events at ICODA, including satsang and spiritual growth seminars, as well as transformational programs, courses, and an incredible wealth of spiritual wisdom teachings from Swami Premodaya.
And we thank you for listening. We give gratitude to you and honor your spiritual path. Thank you to our beloved Sangha. What an incredible support to be on the same spiritual path. And finally, a most ecstatic thank you to our beloved Guru, Swami Premodaya. Your
Mm.
wisdom ways, practices, your wisdom ways and practices have been the transformational light on the path. Jai
Jai
Jai,
Jai,
Swami
Swami
Premodaya.
Premodaya.
Thank you, brother.
Ooh, thank you, Guru Bhai. Thank you, thank you, thank you.